Today, Tony Fauci sits before the U.S. Senate, facing a grilling by senators who can prove that he lied to them and lied over and over again to the American people. He lied about COVID's origins and the necessity for closures and mandates. And he joined with the media, the intelligence community, and major scientific institutions to destroy any scientist attempting to stop him. He's taking the fifth despite his pardon by Joe Biden. His bet is that his media friends, the Democrats, and rigged D.C. courts will save him. But even in the ensuing legal controversy to come, the one question that actually matters will probably not be asked. How did he get away with it until now? How do we prevent the next Tony Fauci claiming to be an expert from a repeat performance? Today we'll answer that, but the answer won't come from today's hearing. It came from the White House a week ago. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've studied how the British intelligence services invented and maintained the media propaganda regime which manufactures popular consent ever since World War I. Today, I'll discuss what the congressional investigation has produced and why it's not enough. We'll outline the consensus-building machinery which made Fauci untouchable until now. Then we'll show you the White House answer and how it changes everything. But before I dig in, hit that like button and share this video. It's a significant one, and we want to make sure it gets maximum reach on YouTube. Now, Fauci's recently released diary, unearthed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he kept it on government servers, reveals him to be a psychotic narcissist. It also shows that he lied about COVID publicly while writing his actual and very different thoughts in his diary. He reveled in being a celebrity, calling himself science incarnate, while millions died as the result of his cover-up of COVID's origins and its true nature. The liberal media is either not covering the story or they're attempting to distort it. That's because they are complicit in it. They went along with one of the most monstrous crimes of our lifetimes. Its sweep included the rigged election, which yielded an incompetent man as president of the United States. Here's Larry O'Connor on Mark Halpern's two-way broadcast Tuesday.
I'd like to venture a guess to your question about why liberals love him and why the left and the media love him. Please. It has to do with Trump. I'm sorry, but Trump was going to win re-election. COVID-19 did not hurt him. The lockdown hurt him. Shutting down our economy, shutting down our schools, and making people's lives miserable, and demonizing any governor like Kristi Noem or Greg Abbott or Ron DeSantis who started questioning the advice from Fauci and the federal government. They were demonized. All of that fed into the chaos of 2020 that led to the election and led to Donald Trump not winning a second term. And they love him for that.
The hearing will outline much further evidence of Fauci's criminality, but it won't adequately expose or change the system of which Fauci is a symptom. Why did every major scientific institution, NIH, CDC, The Lancet, Nature, say the same thing at the same time? Why was every dissenting voice, the great Barrington scientists, lab leak journalists, mRNA skeptics, systematically destroyed? This is not science. This is consensus enforcement. And that consensus enforcement wasn't just killing COVID victims. Until Donald Trump, it was destroying the future of our nation. We're going to be talking about this much more in our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com. Sign up. The link is in the description. Now, COVID wasn't the first time Fauci or manufactured scientific consensus killed whole swaths of our population. During the AIDS epidemic, Fauci promoted a toxic drug, AZT, while suppressing useful therapeutics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. documents this in his book, The Real Anthony Fauci. The opioid epidemic is a similar story, although not linked to Fauci directly. Purdue Pharma got expert medical journalists to lie that OxyContin is non-addictive. The climate hoax, engineered by compromised scientific experts and financial globalists, convinced many in a generation that having children was an irrational and irresponsible act. Real science has never been about expert consensus. It's been about adversarial testing, where the maverick isn't the nuisance, he's the method. That's how it worked when Kepler proved the orbits of the planets were elliptical, not circular, and when a young Einstein appended Newton from a patent office. That's how Elon Musk changed the entire way NASA thinks about rockets. But that adversarial engine breaks down when funding concentrates in a handful of hands. Scientists don't bite the hands that funds their lab, their postdocs, their next grant cycle. And nothing exposed that faster than February 2020, when The Lancet published a letter from 27 scientists declaring, with zero dissent, zero debate, that the lab leak hypothesis was, quote, a conspiracy theory. The letter wasn't a spontaneous outpouring of scientific consensus at all. It was drafted and organized by Peter Daszak, president of EcoHealth Alliance, the very organization funneling NIH grant money into the Wuhan Institute of Virology's corona research. Daszak orchestrated his letter to look like scientific consensus by leaving his role out of it, deliberately. Walter Lippmann, an American member of the British Round Table, published a book called Public Opinion in 1922. It said the modern world has grown too complex, with ordinary citizens unable to grasp reality directly. People, he said, act on simplified, quote, pictures in their heads rather than reality itself. To fix this, he said, we need specialized, expert-staffed intelligence bureaus positioned between the public and decision makers. They gather and interpret information and manage what the public understands. As Lippmann put it, they, quote, manufacture consent. That's the role our media and our intelligence services have played ever since. That's what you see in the lies about COVID and in the censorship on social media platforms after pressure from the FBI and CIA on both COVID and the Hunter Biden laptop. It's a well-oiled machine now which not only manufactures consent, it attempts to enforce it. If you watch the build-up to Lindsey Graham's funeral this week, it was fully in action. Thinking they could milk the president's grief about Graham's death, Netanyahu and Zelensky each created a fake intelligence piece, amplified mightily by the media, to honor Lindsey Graham's war hawk madness. The continued media course about lack of U.S. supplies and the unpopularity of the war here encouraged factions of the IRGC and suicide attacks on U.S. bases yesterday, while Netanyahu and Zelensky were making their pitches. Saudi Arabia and CENTCOM responded. From Ukraine, Zelensky claimed Russia was helping the Ukrainians target American bases. From Israel, Netanyahu had a piece claiming Iran was rebuilding its nuclear capacity. The difference between Trump and past presidents who succumbed to this machine is that Trump is a builder and defines himself as a maverick. He answered both Netanyahu and Zelensky in an interview with Fox and Friends on Tuesday. Here are the key clips.
Very interesting with Lindsey. He was very much a hawk, as you would say, on Iran. And over the last few weeks, I would say that he became like, if you could make a deal, it's better making a deal in this case than just destroying the rest of the country. We've destroyed most of it, frankly. But he was somebody that said it's a good time to make a deal, nice time to make a deal.
What does a good deal look like?
Now, I wouldn't say necessarily he feels that way about Ukraine. He's very militant about. I mean, Lindsey liked war, to be honest with you, okay? You know, I said, you're a nice guy. How come you like war so much? He was a guy that liked war. I jokingly say, and there's nothing funny about it, but he's never seen a war that he didn't like.
There are reports now that Netanyahu is going to talk to you about ongoing excavation at Pickaxe Mountain, construction vehicles entering and exiting tunnels, paving new access roads. Satellite imagery and intel indicates that Iran is actively constructing and fortifying Pickaxe Mountain. How will we respond?
Well, I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. I mean, I don't necessarily. We have the finest because of Space Force. We have the greatest cameras in the world focused on. We know exactly what's going on. But, no, I heard Bibi announce that. I said, why don't you just tell it to me? Why do you have to announce it to the world? I know exactly what's going on at Pickaxe. It's not a big problem. We took out their nuclear sites, and we'll have to take out Pickaxe if we don't make a deal.
Despite their differences, Donald Trump made Lindsey Graham his friend and sought to change him. Both the fakers, Zelensky and Netanyahu, will be leaving Washington with instructions from the president to seek peace. You can bet the complicit press will try to frame it differently. Now, on July 21st, Michael Kratsios, the president's science advisor, introduced a proposal to redirect all federal science funding toward the Mavericks. Underlying it is the principle repeatedly cited by Elon Musk. Physics doesn't lie. Producing something that works requires finding and obeying nature's laws and constant testing and proofs of principle. Here is how Kratsios' proposal starts. Though our investments in research have grown, scientific productivity has slowed. We have become dependent on a narrow set of legacy institutions. Our incentive structures, get this, reward conformity over bold inquiry. And the capacity that once turned American discoveries into American strength has eroded, undermined by decades of industrial offshoring. It goes on to attack the expert scientific bureaucracy. The U.S. research system should prioritize the individual scientist over legacy institutions. If we are serious about expanding what our scientists can do, we must invest directly in American researchers and the bold ideas that drive them. Too much of our research expertise has come to serve itself rather than the scientists within it. Federal funding agencies should support a broader range of performers, including a new generation of mission-driven research organizations to expand our scientific horizons. And these agencies should organize themselves around the interdisciplinary frontiers of science today, rather than the academic silos of the last century. The report compares the relative lack of new inventions and discoveries under previous administrations with the way they treated trade. For decades, American free trade policy assumed that if we just kept markets open, good things would follow automatically based on increased efficiency. Instead, other countries protected their own industries while exploiting ours, and we lost our manufacturing base. Now, directed interventions through tariffs is rebuilding that base. The Kratsios report applies the same logic to developing fusion energy and other frontier technologies. America invented most of the physics behind fusion energy, the plasma science, the materials, the reactor concepts, but inventing the science and actually building the industry are two very different things. America has a habit now of doing the first and losing the second. We invented flat panel displays. Asia builds them now. We embedded the best lithium-ion battery chemistry. Asian factories dominate that supply chain too. The fear driving this report is that fusion and the other frontiers of technologies of the future could go the exact same way and will be left far, far behind. Now our advancing science has to be wedded at every stage to advanced manufacturing platforms right here in the United States. The report attacks DEI hiring in science fields and the paucity of physics and engineering graduates here. This suicidal practice must end. It must be replaced by programs which reward merit, accomplishment, and a focus on the physical sciences and engineering. Risk-taking and contrarian thinking are target priorities now for funding, as well as funding scientists specifically to verify results. All of the federal government science agencies are mandated now to incorporate this new funding strategy into their 2027-2028 budgets by September of this year. So how did Fauci get away with it? His crimes were not that exceptional in a corrupt, consensus-driven scientific culture. The consensus was supported by a media propaganda machine which has ceased to investigate or publish inconvenient truths, and an intelligence community at war with this president. Obedience to expert opinion replaced pursuit of the truth. Donald Trump is now engaged in dismantling both parts of the consensus machine. Today's hearing will fully expose Fauci, but I predict it won't be able to answer the question, how in the world did this happen? By attacking the intelligence community and the scientific consensus establishment, Trump and Kratsios are destroying the world, which allowed Fauci to claim expertise and almost destroy this nation. If you talk to people about our videos, you know there's a lack of understanding out there about the very real revolution the president and his cabinet have undertaken. This report is a part of it. Promethean Action is trying to cure that ahead of the midterms. But to do that effectively, we need to grow. You can help us do that by becoming a paid subscriber to our newsletter or contributing as much as you can. This has been your Wednesday brief. Thanks for listening.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.